Welcome to Going Underground. The Defamation Act 2013 came into full force in England and Wales from the 1st of January, making it much harder for rich individuals and multinational companies to sue the press for libel. But media laws in Ireland are still much more corporation-friendly, making the Emerald Isle attractive to big brands like Facebook and Google. Dublin might just become the new capital of libel, and also a place for big companies to relocate to keep their businesses away from the prying eyes of journalists. All that means that it looks like England and Wales are set to miss out on the little tax these companies actually do pay. With me is Paul Tweed, an international media lawyer who's represented corporations like Ryanair, as well as celebrities like Jennifer Lopez and Britney Spears. Paul, welcome to Going Underground. Should big companies be allowed to challenge the media no matter what?
I don't think they should be allowed to challenge no matter what, but they are entitled to protect their brands. In the UK, the situation is completely different from the US, for instance, where they have protection for image rights, for a right of publicity. Here, big companies can only protect their brands with the laws of copyright and the law of defamation.
But they have fair use and they have the First Amendment in the United States. We don't have that here.
We don't have, but the balance is still loaded against companies in this jurisdiction as it is. And the new UK Defamation Act is going to make it even more difficult for companies to sue, because they now will have to show that they've suffered substantial financial loss, a serious loss, before they can bring a claim, which is going to make it even more difficult for them to protect their brands, and more importantly, it's going to make the UK perhaps a less attractive jurisdiction for them to set up business, whereas in Ireland there's no such requirement. And Ireland already have the edge on the UK because of their more favourable corporation tax regime, because of their more favourable treatment of intellectual property and the capital taxes.
So you're saying we should sympathise with these massive worldwide corporations against some little man who's saying a big corporation hurt their disabled child or something? Yeah. They shouldn't be able to be reported in the press because it might... Surely this law will allow small people to fight those big corporations. It's a good thing. It's
very unusual. In fact, I haven't heard of a case where a big corporation is attacking a small person. There may be the odd isolated scenario, and the courts are more than capable of dealing with those scenarios, as they have done in the past. But we have a situation here where corporations fight corporations over their brands. In a very, very competitive age we live in, it's a very, very common problem. And the UK has to be competitive, and there has to be a level playing field for a corporation, the same way there has to be a level playing field for the ordinary man on the street.
In a sense, if the News of the World existed today, it could publish more wrong stories against celebrities and against corporations, because it would have to prove, the company would have to prove, or the celebrity would have to prove there were substantial losses to their brand.
Yes, or in the case of an individual, that they have suffered serious harm. I mean, the whole threshold is being raised by the UK Act.
How do we get to this outcome?
And this is because there's been so much bickering. I mean, the prime example I cite to people, Louis Walsh, the X Factor judge, who was horrendously libelled by The Sun last year, 2 years ago. We were given 4 hours notice of the story. Louis was absolutely aghast by it. It was just, it turned out to be a totally fabricated story. And
the libel was then reproduced on television as well, of course, yes, in the paper reviews.
Absolutely.
And so on.
But the big problem was 4 hours notice. We'd asked for time because it would have been very easy to check CCTV footage to prove the story was totally false. But no, because The Sun wanted to scoop, and this is what this is all about. The press isn't about public interest. This isn't just about freedom of the press. This is about getting the scoop, to beat your competition, to get the story out there first. Now, there's nothing that we have discussed today, or all the various solutions offered by the press. There's nothing that will help prevent a situation like that, other than the deterrent of a financial penalty. And this is where the press are up in arms, because the government are now talking about a penalty of up to $1 million in cases where there has been a serious misdemeanour on the part of the press. Now, hopefully that will cause the press to think twice, because in the age of the internet, 20 years ago, it was just a question of the people who read the print edition of these papers. Now, a story like the Louis Walsh story goes from London to Sydney to LA in a matter of seconds. Now, we need to know how to stop that. it's fine, you know, or I shouldn't say it's fine, but if you have somebody who has some financial means, they can perhaps take the press on, even though it's still a very daunting task. But the ordinary man on the high street has no chance. He has no access to legal aid. He now will no longer be able to recover after the event insurance premiums, and lawyers are restricted on the CFAs that they can enter into for clients.
But you support the public interest defence. Obviously,
yeah.
There is no Sun public interest
Yeah.
defence in libelling Louis Walsh of X Factor, but there is a public defence in some cases that would be needed here.
As there should be. I act for the majority of my claimant clients are made up of journalists and also politicians, but we'll not go there. Everyone is entitled to fair treatment on a level playing field here.
So you are on side of these small journalists trying to fight the big
of course.
guys. It's just those big mainstream media people you're against. Thank you very much for going underground, Paul Tweed.
My pleasure.